Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo.
Much like Ace of Base, I saw the sign, but I'm going to still have to open up my arms to whatever the hell is happening in free agency. This is the Mafia Minute, where we talk about all things Buffalo Bills. I am Magnum Mills here with Jamie and G. He is an OG card-carrying member of the Bills Mafia. We're going to talk about the Bills right after I tell you about all this stuff. This is the Mafia Minute presented by Season Gap Fantasy Football. Thank you for checking us out. Find us on social media at SeasonGapFF. Find us on the interwebs at MafiaMinute.com. That's right. It's that easy to find us. Thank you for remembering it, and thank you for remembering the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. All we ask, if you're a true blue member of Bills Mafia, you had fun, please hit the thumb. Jamie G, how are you doing this fine day?
Doing well. What's up, Bills Mafia? We're here. It's the off season, but that doesn't slow us down. Lots to talk about. It's been a crazy week of free agency. Bills, I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm cautiously optimistic and, feeling good about what's happening here with the Bills.
All right, man. We're going to get to the free agency in a minute, but let's start with a little bit of the big uglies, work our way outward. Right as we were recording our last episode, basically pretty close, the Bills cut Mitch Morse. Jamie G, thoughts on this one? We kind of thought after the trade there that they were going to keep Morse, wound up signing with Jacksonville. Any thoughts on the departure of Mitch Morse?
Yeah, look, you're really going to miss him. I love Mitch Morse. He was he was the dad of the offensive line, good center, probably, closer to the end than the beginning. He's also had a tremendous amount of, I think like 6 or 7 concussions, maybe more. So you worry about that a little bit. I just don't know that either A, they wanted to keep him at a discount, or B, he was willing to take a discount. I mean, his contract in Jacksonville suggests that he got right around the $8 million or so he was owed. So I think that's probably, happy for him. Would have loved to see him not be in the AFC. But at least he didn't sign with an AFC East team. So credit him for that. And happy for Mitch Morse, but it'd be interesting to see what they do at center.
Yeah, well, sticking on the offensive line, Deion Dawkins, the Temple product, did a little bit of a psych out, posted some stuff on social media. People were scared, wound up re-signing with the Bills. It was called a 3-year deal, $60 million, about $40 million guaranteed. It's about 2/3 of the deal. Jamie G, how do you feel about this?
I really love this, and I'll talk about his wicked psych out here in a minute, but I thought he was coming off his best season as a pro. He was really consistent last year. I love how he played the game, and I'm excited about him re-signing here. You also love the fact he's just a great locker room guy, Walter Payton man for the team, and is just a phenomenal character on that Bills team. But you love the fact that he talked about staying in Buffalo, signing for less, to keep that team together and be a leader on that team. You love to hear that if you're a Bills fan. This was really important. When he came with his weird out on social media, it was like I immediately got like 15 texts from my Bills fans buddies. They're like, dude, what is this? Oh my God, what are we doing? How could this happen? I mean, it's like, dude, there's no way you get rid of your left tackle who's still within his prime here, coming off his best season ever. And he fooled us and fooled us big. Plus, he hates the Jets, and that's awesome. So shout out Big Doc.
All right, and then 2 other kind of notable re-signings here. You extended the contract of David Edwards for 2 years and re-signed Quentin Morris to a 1-year deal. I believe he's an exclusive rights free agent. Just kind of depth pieces right there on the offensive line, more or less.
Well, interesting enough, there's talk here that they could potentially look to shift Connor McGovern from left guard to center and then plug David Edwards in at left guard. Whether they do that or not, David Edwards was more than depth for us last year. He was consistently in on the jumbo packages as the 6 offensive lineman. And really, all the kind of Buffalo shoves and the snow plow and all that, he was in there for those. But he was also in there quite a bit on just heavy, run plays. So he got more action than you think. It'll be interesting to see if he earns a starting job and they move McGovern to center. I thought McGovern was fantastic at left guard, so I'm not sure how I feel about that, but more to come.
Yeah, it'll probably depend on the draft is what I'm guessing. And then a little bit of a surprise, not in that what happened, but how it happened. Dawson Knox restructured his contract not maybe a huge shocker. You knew they had to do something, but they did it in such a way that it's going to make it even more difficult for the Bills to move on from Dawson Knox next year. So he lowered the cap number, but basically locked it in for another 2 years here. Are you okay with that?
Yes, I mean, I think that they like Dawson Knox. He's been a very team guy. They like his ability in the two tight end set. I don't know that they're going to go to it as heavily as they wanted to last year, per se. But I do think in this league, it's nice to have two weapons and two guys on the field that can kind of stretch and create some mismatches. He's also better in the blocking game than Dalton Kincaid. So particularly down the field, he had to do something for himself here. He didn't have to do anything. So the Bills really couldn't do anything. They couldn't cut him. They couldn't trade him. I appreciate him doing something, but this at least ensures him for another 2 years. He really doesn't want to play for another franchise. So I guess I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's again going to be an overpay based on what someone else would give him, but at a certain point in the locker room, guys noticed. You take care of your own players. Agents notice how you deal with these kind of things. So I think there is some higher level thinking going on here. Yeah, you're probably going to overpay Dawson Knox by a couple $1,000,000 next year and even this year, but it is what it is. And God forbid, if Dalton Kincaid were to miss time and knocking on the various woods, you at least have Dawson Knox to step up and fill that void, which is something that's comfortable. And again, like you said, it keeps the different formation packages in play. We like all that. What we don't like is Stefon Diggs doing what unfortunately feels like Stefon Diggs stuff these days. You have a combination of things. His brother is back talking on Twitter, what have you, or X, or whatever you want to call it. Diggs changed his Twitter bio to a pic of him waving goodbye. He posted like ready for whatever. Realistically, even if you wanted to, you couldn't trade Stefon Diggs before June 1st. Jamie G, are you just tuning this out at this point? Or I don't want to spend too much time on it if it's just rehashing old stuff, but keeps happening.
Yeah, it keeps happening. And look, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm sick of Diggs's antics. Early on, I was a defender of him. It's just the Buffalo media latching onto stuff, and it's kind of like they're just reaching for straws. Well, now he's creating this. He's purposefully doing this, and whether he's intending to be a distraction or not, he is. And at a certain point, we're sick of his antics. This is coming off a game where Josh Allen dropped a dime to him on a game-changing play against the Chiefs, and he drops it. And this is coming off the worst half of a season he's ever had. Where do you get the nerve to be posting this bullshit? Worry about getting your ass ready to play a full season and contributing to helping this team win a championship, not posting stupid shit on Twitter and these subliminal messages and stuff. I'm just sick of his antics, Mills. I'm sick of it.
Oh, Dennis, you don't look good.
Trust me, D. If I found myself getting sick, I would simply say, "Sickness be gone!"
And I guess what can you really do, though? He has to know they can't really trade him. So
Nothing.
What is he? All he's doing is making things worse for himself, right? That's the hard part to understand.
He gladly signed the contract. There's nothing they can do. And, it's one thing to if he wants out, he should say it. Just stop with this stuff. He really pissed me off midseason with his brother. And obviously the Bills got revenge on that when they won and took the high road, of course. But I'm just done with the Stefon Diggs of it all, dude. Like he's creating the drama around him. And I think it's because, I wasn't one of these guys who's like, oh, he's a drama queen. I think he is.
Where could he have it better? He is right now being paid as one of the top wide receivers from one of the top quarterbacks. Kansas City can't pay him what the Bills are paying him. Where's he going to go? Miami, Oakland, or Las Vegas? Excuse me. This is it. This is why he has no leverage, because where is he going to have it better? Nowhere else is he going to get this combination of salary and quarterback play. And it also a competent team around him.
Right.
So
there isn't. And that's what
it makes him look bad, and it lowers the possible trade value, which even if he wanted to get traded, lowers the chances of him getting traded, which is achieving his objective. So that's what makes it so hard to comprehend here. Is it seems like he's not doing anyone any favors there, including himself.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it's immature, and I'm just, You know, at a
I
certain
just thought
point,
maybe
it's like,
he's got some bad advice. You know what I mean? He's got someone in his ear talking that shit to him, and that maybe he'll clear it up and then refocus or whatever, because he's still going to be a highly paid wide receiver on a team with a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. And that's the goal, right? I mean, if you're the NFL wide receiver, he's accomplished that. He's where he needs to be. So now you just got to finish it.
well, the thing that bothers me is he wears the C on his chest. Captains don't do this shit. Captains and leaders on that team. See what Josh Allen is doing? He's calling him the best wide receiver in football. I mean, come on, man. Like you don't behave this way in the offseason, especially when you contributed to the loss in the playoffs.
And especially when it ain't your first rodeo. This is at least the second offseason in a row we're doing the same thing over again. And, you know, they'll tell you one more time. Repeating that would be the definition of insanity. Jamie G, before we get down to the individual moves, I just want you to give an initial grade to the free agency re-signing period here. The first week, I'm going to go personally with a B-. I think the Bills, for the most part, took care of business. They didn't hit any home runs, but no real big misses. Yeah, there's a couple guys who left you will feel bad about, but I think for the most part, they've had some pretty good re-signings. I like where they're at. Jamie G, give me a grade for the Bills free agency through the first week to 10 days.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm giving it a B+, and the reason why I'm plussing instead of a minus is they took care of some key players and locked them in for the foreseeable future with Dawkins, and then earlier today, as we're filming this, with Taron Johnson, who's a major player on defense. So I'm giving it a B+. They got rid of players, but they were all players that were aging or overpriced rotational depth pieces, special teams contributors, and they're just at a stage where they can't afford those guys. And the aging players, I'm okay with. Yeah, it sucks, and I don't love to see good leadership, good talent go that help change the culture. But at the same time, I think those moves had to be made, and they've gotten us from way over the cap to in a position to be compliant and room to make a couple of signings and stuff like that. So and they took care of some of their own. So I'm okay with it so far, Mills. It wasn't an easy task.
You brought it up, Taron Johnson. I mean, 3 years, I believe, $31 million, makes him the highest paid slot corner in the league. The Bills didn't have a lot of money to spend here. Again, we're going to get to the rest of it, but this was the biggest expenditure they made. Was it worth it?
I think so, because he is, especially with losing, you're going to be starting 2 new safeties unless somehow Hyde comes back.
This was really important. People who don't watch the Bills week in and week out, you don't know how important Taron Johnson is to that defense. He's on the field every single defensive snap. He's not just a nickel. He's almost a third linebacker. He can come down in the box. He can cover in space. He has great instincts, flies to the football, makes a ton of plays. Really important piece to that defense. And I just think they thought, you know what? He's to us as important as any other position on the back end of our defense. That's so hard to replace. They had to have him. And he was heading into the final year of his deal.
Second team All-Pro, 27 years old, entering his prime at that position. That's who you spend money on. Yes, it's not quite as sexy as a pure edge rusher or a number 1 corner, but this day and age, having a slot corner, especially a versatile slot corner, is incredibly important. So that kind of came in the middle ground between the re-signings and the technical free agent stuff. I believe that'll go down in the books as an extension. But let's move on to the other stuff. Jamie G, at quarterback, we thought maybe you'd bring somebody back home, and you did. Mitch Trubisky, 2 years, a little bit over $5 million. About $2.5 million guaranteed. So call it, a 1-year deal for a shade under $3 million. You extend him if it's cheap. Mitch Trubisky, you okay with that?
For the money, I am. I'd rather have somebody. I'm not a big Trubisky guy. I know he was there before. Great team guy, good in the locker room, has good vision.
He's better than what you had last year.
For Josh.
I will say that. He's better than what you had last year.
It definitely is. I would have rather have gotten, somebody like a Jacoby Brissett or something who could come in. But let's face it, they're not gonna take Josh out, even if I want him to on quarterback sneaks and stuff like that. He's just not coming off the field. So I'm okay with it. And I think, again, the price is right, and they got a proven commodity who started a lot of games in the league, for better or worse.
The only thing I'll say is Tell me I'm wrong, but my guess is if the Bills hadn't gone there, they went with Trubisky before free agency, even before the legal tampering period, even because he was cut by the Steelers. If they knew how it was going to play out, would it have shocked you to see them trade a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields?
Not at all. And I think I would have liked that a lot because
That would fit the playbook. That would let Fields rehab his talent. That checks a lot of boxes unless Fields was determined to play this year.
Yeah, I think so. And the thing I love about it too is he creates a good scout when we're playing teams like Baltimore or even Mahomes with some of the wiggle. So I really would have liked that more so than Trubisky. But I'm not mad at this. I mean, this is just it's okay.
Yeah, if you don't have Josh Allen, there's already problems. That's kind of the way it works pretty much. Running back, you have not made a major move yet, but the word is Ty Johnson is expected to resign. You like that? I mean, you'll probably add either, a day 3 running back, maybe a mid-price veteran, combination of all of the above, and that's fine. So if Ty Johnson's your RB2, you go with that?
I am. I think he earned it last year. He's got a pop to him. I like that he can get out on the edge, but he can also hit the hole and go. And he was surprisingly good in the passing game. So I'm into this with Ty Johnson. I do expect them to add some depth here, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do it via draft. Especially with there may be some talent that falls here. I mean, we could be looking at the top rated running back not even going until maybe 3. So I mean, yeah, I think that they're going to add to that, but I'm very much so good with Ty Johnson. He was pretty damn good down the stretch.
Extra man's in them. They're bringing him back. And again, a guy who can catch passes, he can pass block, he can contribute on special teams. Exactly the kind of guy you want to have as a depth piece. Moving over to wide receiver, I think we have what I would say is the second biggest expenditure, at least third at the deepest. Curtis Samuel, we called it one of the best case signings for the Bills at wide receiver. He got it done. 3 years, $30 million. My guess is that the guarantees are pretty much a 1-year deal with some stuff tagged on the back end. Jamie G, how do you feel about Curtis Samuel coming onto the team, and where do you think he fits in at the wide receiver rotation that right now only really features Stephon Diggs and Khalil Shakir?
I'm never mad about adding burst, separation, and elite speed to an offense. Excited to see what he does with a true franchise quarterback. I also think that he's just a unique weapon that the Bills can create offensively, can create mismatches for. You put him on the field, and they've got to account for him. It's gonna be tough to guard him and Kincaid, and you got Cook coming out of the backfield, Diggs. So I really like this as kind of just a mechanical mismatch piece, and he can run the football. So there's going to be some some ability to kind of use him in different packages as well. So like this a lot. Familiarity with both Brandon Beane, who drafted him, and then of course Joe Brady when he was in Carolina. So I'm happy with this pick. And I know it's 3 years, $30 million, but it's not really. And I'm okay with what they paid for him here.
Yeah, maybe you could have played chicken and got him for $1 million less. But think about him coming in then. Like, you want a player to be comfortable, you want him to feel wanted and everything like that. Sometimes it's worth it to maybe overpay a touch to, bring them in and have them really motivated to do their best for you. You also added Mac Hollins. I'd say he's probably going to want to be your wide receiver 4 or 5, but he's a dude that can definitely contribute in all phases of special teams. Dude originally drafted, I believe, out of Miami by the Eagles in the 4th round. Has had a little bit of success as a deep threat, hit or miss, but exactly the kind of guy you want to add as a depth here again, because special teams is still a very important phase of the game.
Yeah, and he's proven to be a stud on special teams, and he can come in and he's never been a consistent weapon offensively, but again, excited to see what he can do.
Right,
and I think
he
can help
80% of what Marquez Valdes-Scantling can give you, kind of. It's a tall, straight line, speed, deep threat kind of guy.
Yeah, and I think he can also be a nice veteran to help bring along guys like Justin Shorter, who a lot of Bills fans are excited about.
Yeah, good locker room presence for Justin Shorter there. We'll move over to defense, and on the edge, Jamie G, they did it. They re-signed AJ Epinesa. Maybe you didn't think it was possible, when we were going into last year. 2-year deal worth about $20 million, but definitely backloaded into the second year. It feels like he did the Bills a little bit of a favor to stay there. He was the guy when I was watching games, especially in the second half of the season, he was just always around the ball. even if he didn't necessarily make every play, I think you have to be excited a little bit about the step he took forward, right? Especially as you've seen guys like Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau take steps forward on that defensive line.
Yeah, and look, if the choice is between him and Floyd, a lot of people are going to be like, well, Floyd had 10 and a half sacks. We'd rather have Floyd. I get that, but Floyd is just that. And we're taking the age and the fact that AJ Epinesa was drafted, in the second round by this regime. He's taken a little bit to bulk up and kind of grow into the player he is. I think he hasn't even hit his prime yet. I think he's going to get better every season. And in 2 years from now, I think he's going to be worth a lot more. And a lot more expensive to resign, but we'll worry about that when we get there. Really happy the Bills got this done, and they needed to. They need to. You got him, you got Gregory Rousseau. They needed to get this done with AJ Epinesa.
For what it's worth, the mathematician in me looks at this contract and says it was decided to do one of three things. Either next year, the Bills will move on, or they will re-sign him to a contract extension or franchise him. That's kind of the way it's structured, to give him some protection on the back end for taking a little bit less money this year. But if he comes out and plays pretty well, this deal is designed for the Bills to probably tear that second season up in signing to a longer contract extension of the 3-4 year variety. I think this was a little bit both for cap protection on the Bills and to give him an opportunity, if he plays really well this year, that he's going to make some real money next year. So I think you had to satisfy kind of both of those requirements to get a deal that worked for both sides, and I think it did. In Jamie G, we're still rolling on the defensive line because you got another one. Bills re-signed Daquan Jones, 2 years, $16 million, about 2/3 of it, $10.5 million guaranteed. Could max out at $18 million over 2 years. A little bit of run stuff for over 30, but again, maybe if you overpaid even $1 million, is that the worst thing in the world? I knew you were real keen on re-signing him.
I think this is one of the most important things that they did. This makes so much sense. Local guy, grew up in the upstate New York area, close by to where the Bills play. He was flat out dominant before tearing his pec last year. I mean, the combination of him and Ed Oliver next to each other were dominant. Yeah, he's a run stuffer and can take on double, triple teams, but do not get it twisted. He can get after the quarterback now too. He's an absolute animal the way he just moves human beings. Really like Daquan Jones. I'm higher on him than most, but anybody who really watches the defensive line of the Bills understands his importance. This was critical to get this done. I think it's a fair deal. You saw some of the money thrown around for some of the other guys. No question they got to get younger. I think they drafted D tackle in the draft this year. I think that's a prime candidate. Could even happen on the back end of round 1 or round 2. But this was important for the Bills. And I'm excited about pairing him up again with Ed Oliver, who's coming off the best season, was an absolute tear. If these guys stay healthy, look out. This is going to be a good, formidable defensive front for the Bills.
I would say if he stays healthy, this will be a square deal. Both sides will get what they're looking for out of it. A couple of signings to finish out here. 2 minor, 1 bigger. Pretty minor, you signed linebacker Nicholas Morrow to a 1-year deal. Coming from my Philadelphia Eagles, decent depth guy, can contribute on special teams, won't cost you much. Lot to like there. You re-signed Cam Lewis, the cornerback, to a 2-year contract. Not sure of the terms on that one. And then the bigger one, you re-signed Taylor Rapp to a 3-year deal, assuming he's going to be one of your starting safeties. Jamie G, how do you feel about Taylor Rapp at least taking the, one of the spots from Poyer and Hyde?
I feel okay about it. I mean, look, last year I thought he played a lot. He played well. There were times where I was a little bit worried about him in coverage, taking wrong angles and whatnot. But overall, I thought he played pretty well, fits the system. They did an interesting job last year, kind of rotating in at times 3 safeties. And I think that gave him some exposure. I'm still not 100% positive Micah Hyde doesn't come back, but I do think Taylor Rapp's going to be one of the starters going forward. And I think Sean McDermott, knowing how much he values the safety position in his defense, because it allows him to do everything else he wants to do, he needed somebody who knew the system, who's been here. And I think that's why they signed Taylor Rapp to the 1-year deal last year. They knew this it wasn't like, oh, we're shocked we've got this situation with Poyer and Hyde. They knew it was coming. And I think that was good insurance last year, and he earned the right to re-sign. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of this coming up here on defense.
I like it. He's a guy who's moved around a lot, but sometimes safeties can take a while, especially because of all the responsibilities they have and the fact that the market for them tends to be a little bit depressed. I could see him being a guy who has a nice late career breakout, a lot like Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer did. So I think he makes sense as a replacement for them. In Jamie G, the Bills are replacing a lot of guys. And let's just take a moment and pour one out for all of the Bills players who are leaving. Maybe one of the two of them wind up returning, but we just want to point them out. And, if there's anybody in particular you'll miss, Jamie G, you can point them out. Otherwise, we just want to acknowledge them. And the Bills that have departed from us this year are so far Kyle Allen, Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, Gabriel Davis, Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, Ryan Bates, Mitch Morse, Leonard Floyd, Shaq Lawson, Guna Ford, Linval Joseph, Jordan Phillips, Tim Settle, Tyrell Dodson, Dane Jackson, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Saran Neal. Jamie G, it has to hurt to hear Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. That is 3/4 of a hell of a secondary.
Yeah, it is. And I'm still not, a couple things here, Bells. One, Jordan Poyer, you're dead to me. Signing with the
Because he went to
Dolphins,
Miami?
yeah, come on, dude. And his wife, Rachel Bush, she's been pushing that for years. Can't stand her. Saran Neal, same thing. There's come on, man. There's 31 other teams. You're going to go there. Disappointed. I really like Saran Neal. Never thought he got I thought he didn't get a chance to play, but can. I think that's a good signing for them. Poyer, it's whatever. He's getting older. I'm not convinced Tre'Davious White doesn't come back to the Bills. Micah Hyde, I think, will come back unless he retires. Same thing with Jordan Phillips. Same thing with Shaq Lawson. So there's still a chance some of these guys come back pending their own retirement. But yeah, I mean, this is what happens, man. You had to move on. Tre'Davious White is just simply two serious injuries there in a row. It's just tough.
Any personal favorites? I mean, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse, Shaq Lawson, Jordan Phillips, Terrell Dodson, Dane Jackson. Anyone in particular outside of the main guys?
One guy that I wanted to get more playing time last year, I was excited about him. He just never really did much and didn't really get a lot of chance, was Poona Ford. I wanted to see him kind of develop. It just didn't work out. Obviously, I'll miss Leonard Floyd. He was only there 1 year. It's going to be tough to not have the steady reliability of Mitch Morse. I think out of all these, that's the one that hurts the most. But you got to understand, he is also old and maybe has a year or two left of playing. So I'm not mad at the Bills for any of these decisions. And I'm proud of Tyrell Dodson. I think he's getting an opportunity to start for Seattle, and he played really well last year. At times, he deserves it.
He's filling some big shoes in there for Bobby Wagner, but you can see him taking it down. And thank you for taking down this episode of the Mafia Minute. Just do something that, Fish would say, like swallow it down, spin it all around, something like that. I'm sure there is something very cool about it that Fish would reference in their lyrics. Again, thank you. This is the Mafia Minute presented by Season Gap Fantasy Football, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on the web at seasongapp.ff.com. Thank you for remembering all of that. Thank you for remembering the flaps. Follow, like, and please subscribe. It's very important. Sure, maybe it's not as important as being a Bills fan, but it's very important to us. Seriously, if you had fun, please click the thumb. We really appreciate it. Jamie G, get everybody excited for the next episode of the Mafia Minute, where we'll do a draft, more free agent news type of hype thing. Very, very cool. Throw in the
Yeah, look, we're getting into the off season. We've got draft coming up, more free agency notes. We'll be getting prepped for that, and then ultimately breaking down the draft when it happens. Lots of good stuff in store right here on the Mafia Minute. Make sure you don't miss a single moment of these Mafia Minutes. Go Bills.
DC.